Sony Mobile has been battling it out in the world of Android phones for quite some time. Its success has been middling, but at the top level it still wants to push its phones as a prosumer device. It's looking to its alpha cameras in a market that's now dominated by AI instead of manual controls. So does the Xperia 1 III get the balance right? I'm Cam Bunton from Pocket-lint, and this is our review. And while you're here, if you could hit the like button, subscribe and tap the notification bell, that would be excellent. At first glance, the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III doesn't look hugely different to the Mark II. There's a slight difference in dimensions, but the big difference you'll notice is the finish. The Xperia 1 Mark III has a matte finish that removes the glossy look to the rear of the phone, saving you from fingerprints and smears, while the whole package looks more sophisticated than the phone before it. There's Gorilla Glass Victus, which is Corning's toughest grade of glass currently while we're recording this, on the front and on the back. And the matte black looks really good. It's tighter, more precise, and it holds on to waterproofing too while retaining stereo speakers and a 3.5mm headphone socket. It also holds on to a side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which now sits above a Google Assistant button, recessed into the frame, so that if you don't want to use it, you'll likely never press it and forget that it's there. The fingerprint scanner works pretty well too, but it can be a struggle in the wet, and we found ourselves being told that there's been too many failed unlocks and having to wait 30 seconds before trying again. This is down to the handling of the phone and it registering accidental touches. There's a dedicated camera button too, allowing you to launch the camera and use it to take photos, a hallmark of Sony's top devices for many years. It's a big phone, yes, and as with Sony's other recent devices, it has a 21:9 aspect ratio display, to try and keep those diagonal inches without getting too wide. It'll be a little long for some pockets, which is why Sony also offers the Xperia 5, which offers similar experience but in a smaller package. Now onto display, and this is where the Xperia 1 Mark III really does stand out, at least when you read the specs. Not only does it have that 21:9 aspect ratio, but it's 4K resolution too, capable of pushing plenty of pixels with higher density than rival devices. That display has 120Hz refresh rate, although you have the option to turn it off and revert to 60Hz, which will save you battery life. It also supports HDR, so fire up Netflix and you'll find those HDR labels in place, ensuring you're getting the best experience you can. Now, does the 4K resolution make a big difference? And the answer is no, not really. It's not hugely different to other flagship devices in terms of visual performance, plus many apps simply don't use the resolution on offer, and many video services and games don't either. One of the good things about the display though is that there's no notch or punch hole here to distract you, as the front camera sits in the bezel at the top of the display. And really, we don't mind that. It's only a small sliver of a bezel to the top and the bottom, and that's actually an advantage when you're playing games with the phone in landscape orientation. Now, all the spec high points do make for a great display though. We love the size and the aspect, and the flat finish has advantages over curves. And the colour tone is good too. There's even an option to revert to Sony's Creator mode, which is designed to look more natural. And this does look really good, particularly when watching movies. Many will find this a bit too muted for daily use, but there's an auto mode, so the natural effect can be used in certain apps so you don't have wildly vibrant video content. Now, as for hardware and performance, Sony is right up there with the top devices, with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 and 12GB of RAM putting this phone in the top tier. That's noticeable in performance too, because it feels slick and fast, seamlessly flipping from task to task and delivering without a stutter. There's 256GB of storage, but it still offers micro SD for storage expansion, and that's something of a rarity in flagship devices these days. Games run smoothly too, with the option to select top settings and get a great result. Sony pushes its Game Enhancer to boost the experience, but it isn't the best such system out there. The key thing it misses is the ability to lock gesture navigation, so you'll be playing a game and you'll swipe out of it by mistake. And to make things worse, you'll then find that the auto brightness then immediately changes, meaning you return to your game and the screen will be really dim. You can lock gesture navigation by using the competition set, but then you have to turn that off to be able to exit a game. Now at 4,500 mAh, the battery isn't the biggest out there. It's not the smallest either, in fact it's quite a typical capacity. But in light use you'll easily get over 24 hours from it, so you can spend a night away from a charger and likely be fine. The 30-watt charging wired isn't the fastest either, but you do get that 30-watt charger in the box for a fairly quick top-up. Well, wireless charging is also supported for extra convenience. Onto cameras, and this is where Sony takes a lot of influence from its alpha camera range, wanting to append that Pro label to its camera experience. We've criticised this positioning before because we can't see that adding complexity to the camera experience gives any real benefit to most users, especially with some of the best experiences coming from computational photography rather than attempting to do something that a proper camera does. However, Sony's makeup is smart, and there are some things we fundamentally like about it, because there's no junk lenses thrown in. Each is good in its own right. And what is actually quite fantastic is that all three of the main lenses are 12 megapixels. So there's no messing about with different sensor sizes and megapixel counts. It's all very consistent. It's the telephoto that's interesting because not only is it a periscope telephoto, but it has two focal lengths, 70mm and 105. That's 2.9 times and 4.4 times. This has been achieved by moving the lens elements within the periscope lens assembly, so rather than needing two zoom cameras on the back of the phone, Sony can do it with one. The downside of the arrangement is that there's no pinch zooming across these optical steps, so if you zoom in the main camera, you hit 2.9 times and then stop. You then have to tap the 2.9 times icon to switch lenses, and the process repeats. One of the great things that Sony has implemented from its camera range, however, is object tracking. By default, you can tap an object to track it. This is clever because it will aim to keep a particular subject in focus even if it's moving. Now, we said all the lenses are good, and they are. The ultra-wide is great and avoids the sort of blurring you find on cheaper phones, although it can be slightly muted compared to the main camera, and the zoom is less rich than either of those two. And because Sony is trying to push its manual modes and professional settings, it misses out on doing things like giving you a proper simple night mode, and the portrait selfie mode's edge detection is so poor it makes that feature barely worth using. The same Pro treatment is taken on video too, with a completely separate app called Cinema Pro, designed to make you feel like a filmmaker, choosing your frame rate from 24 to 120p, manually adjusting the focus and such. Now, we can't really imagine how small the market of people is that use their phone to shoot video this way. Most, we suspect, will just flip to the video mode in the main camera app for point-and-shoot action. Now, in the end, the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III is all the phone that most people will need. That big display, the premium look and feel, and the smooth running that comes with its top-tier hardware is all great. The spec sheet is generous, with often dropped features like a 3.5mm headphone socket and expandable storage added, so there's appeal there that other flagships have dispensed with. Couple that with battery performance that's good and the lack of a notch, you have a really neat phone. But with phone use increasingly being defined by experiences, Sony has gone down the pro photographer and videographer route, wanting to add sophistication to the cameras, enabling it to do lots of things that nobody wants, while struggling to do the things that everyone wants. And that's been the story for some time with Sony's phones, so while there's lots on offer here in the Xperia 1 Mark III, there's competition that excels in some of the areas where it lacks. From a phone that's priced at the top of the pile too, it's hard to justify when compared to what you'll find from the likes of Samsung. I've been Cam. Let me know what you think of this phone in the comments down below, or reach me on social media. I'm at Cam Bunton. If you like this video, please do leave a thumbs up. It helps us a lot. Hit subscribe and tap the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any more. I'll see you again in the next one. Bye for now.